Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Maestrina Chiaretta di Fiore, and this is Enjoy Your Drawers, which is a class on 16th century Italian underwear. I'm going to wait a moment or two while I pull my slides up, just in case anybody else pops in. Okay, as I said, I am Maestrina Chiaretta di Fiore, and this is Enjoy Your Drawers. And here's my contact information if you need it. There is a handout in the Google Drive, the shared Google Drive, that it covers this tutorial that I'm about to cover later on in the class. The first part of the class will be more of a, this is an overview of drawers and who wore them and what we know about them. The second half will actually cover drafting your own pattern using the Bara method. So you might want to check for that pattern or for that tutorial if you can. Sienna, would you mind looking for that and putting it into the chat?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. So calzone, or drawers, are an oft-debated item. There are records of noblewomen with luxurious versions, and examples of courtesans, such as these, wearing drawers beneath their gowns. There are multiple pairs, extant pairs of calzone assumed to belong to women, but the only pictorial evidence of drawers in the 16th century is from art of courtesans. This makes sense because upstanding women, for example, di Toledo, who was the Duchess of Florence, was not about to be painted in her underwear. This is not, there is not, however, any solid evidence that women of all stations wore calzone regularly. Morà a Firenze suggests that Eleonora di Toledo owned a pair of calzone in crimson taffeta, but then, Morà a Firenze, which is sort of the Bible for Florentine fashion, suggests that calzone were not common and their use was generally frowned upon because they were associated with prostitutes. I feel like that's kind of odd. You just told us Eleonora di Toledo, Duchess of Florence, has a pair of drawers, and then you're telling us that it wasn't common and people didn't wear them. So I find that that is what initiated or triggered my interest in drawers, my interest in researching drawers, was this disconnect between who owns them and the examples that we have of noblewomen who owned drawers in their trousseau or whatever the case may be, their wardrobe records. However, what most people consider to be the experts on 16th century Florentine fashion say that, they were frowned upon because they were associated with prostitutes. So that kind of triggered my interest in this topic. And here's where I get on my soapbox briefly. In my opinion, the courtesan connection doesn't really make sense because if drawers were inappropriate for women of standing, why does the Duchess of Florence own a pair in fine silk? It just doesn't seem to make sense. And there were other, noble women who have evidence of them in their, like I said, in their trousseau or their wardrobe records. Also, it seems to me like women would just kind of wholeheartedly embrace drawers the moment they heard about them. Like, oh my God, hallelujah, this is everything I've ever needed. For me, the first time I wore drawers under my gown, it was a total hallelujah moment. And I am not religious, but it was just like, oh my God. They're just so much more comfortable in the heat. Your thighs don't rub together. They don't necessarily keep you cool in the heat, a nice pair of linen drawers, but feel more comfortable in the heat. But then in the winter, they also provide warmth. So it seems like it would be a no-brainer to just go ahead and wear drawers all the time as soon as you hear about it. But, again, we can't go back in time and find out who exactly wore them and how often they wore them. So it's, conjecture at this point. I'm going to show you some examples of the drawers I've made. And the first set of patterns is scaled extant patterns coming from Patterns of Fashion. So these drawers were made based on this the pattern of this garment, which is more of a breech than a drawer, really. And you can tell the shape is going to be different than the other shapes that we see in this slideshow. But this pair, I made it with a striped linen, a striped open work linen. And this pattern was just not right for that type of shaping. I think one of the other patterns that I used and learned later would have been more appropriate because you see how the stripes get a curved shape here. This pattern or this garment was from the second half of the 16th century. It's in the Museo del Tessuto in Prato. And here's a outline of what the actual shape of the piece looks like. The next pair of drawers that I made were based on this pair around 1600 from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. And you can see the shape of the outline of the garment is a bit different from the previous one. And these are more of a straight-legged pattern. But they came down just to my knees. Actually, I believe I'm wearing this pair right now. And the pair of drawers, they're perfectly comfortable. They're roomy. They do their job. But the thing that I hate about it is the drawstring waist. And the reason for that is just a comfort matter. It digs into my waist. So of all the pairs of drawers that I have, these are the ones that I wear the least and appreciate the least because of the drawstring waist, which is what was believed to be on the original pair here. In addition, we have my fancy drawers with fringe at the knee. And of course, I have foxes in my heraldry. I am called Kit, like a baby fox. So I've got foxes everywhere. This pair was what inspired the title, Enjoy Your Drawers, because if you don't show them to other people, nobody knows what you're wearing. So you can make them out of anything. They can be as fancy or as non-historically accurate as you want them to be, and they will still serve their purpose. This pair was made based on a 1600 pair from the Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And this one, you can see the shape is even more square and triangles, which, you know, is great for conserving fabric. Squares and triangles are the best. They go back through history. So that is ultimately what I designed my own pattern based on, is this very square shape with the triangle cut out. Unfortunately, when I scaled the waist down to my waist, the length of these particular drawers is way too long. It hangs over my knee and makes it difficult to bend my knee. But we don't know for sure how long an everyday person's pair of drawers, if they existed, would have been. So it's going to be a comfort factor. Do you like it over your knee? Do you like it above your knee? You know, you're going to have to play around and figure out what works best for you. So this pair of drawers was made using Margot Anderson's patterning line, and I wanted to test it and see if it was something I would recommend. It's the same basic shape as the previous pattern with the squares and the triangles cutouts. Again, I made this pair with a waistband or a drawstring waist, so it is not my favorite pair, but they are very comfortable and they are very close to a period shape. So yes, if you don't feel comfortable drafting your own Bara pattern, you could always use Margot Anderson's pattern. And then these last, I think I have 2 slides left here that are, or maybe 1, 2 pairs of drawers that are based on the Bara system that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. So the Bara system, I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a few minutes, but it is not my invention. It is not my design. Matthew Nagy, or Master Jose in the SCA, is heard mention it, and he has books based on how to work with this system that was used by 16th century Spanish tailors. It makes perfect sense to me that in Italy there would have been something similar, if not the exact same method, or a very slightly different method. So I tried using it for drawers, and I created a pattern to this shape. And This linen pair was my first test. I gained some weight, so the drawers didn't quite close. And the second pair was my second test. And then I also made a pair in red silk as a gift for my apprentice sister's elevation. However, I did not have a full length picture of that, so I only had close-ups. So I know I went through that kind of quickly. So again, we see the same shape here as the Met drawers, and I will show you shortly how to achieve that. And now we get to the end. Okay, so these are some resources and references that are worth looking into if you're interested in this kind of topic. margospatterns.com is patterns for 16th century garments, as well as she has a pattern for Italian underwear and Italian outerwear. Patterns of Fashion 4, which I mentioned earlier, by Janet Arnold and Jenny Tiramani. This covers undergarments, drawers, stockings, basically any kind of accessories or undergarments that you can have. So if you are interested in that area, it covers 1540 to 1660. Mora a Firenze, 1540 to 1580, covers Eleonora di Toledo's influence on fashion, and this is by Roberta Orsi Landini and Bruna Nicoli. And this, like I said, is commonly considered to be the Bible for 16th century Florentine fashion. And also I want to give a mention to the Realm of Venus website, realmofvenus.renaissanceitaly.net. They host an annual Italian Renaissance costuming challenge, which is how I first became interested in Italian clothing. But they also have, in addition to resources of extant garments, they have examples upon examples of other people's recreations. So you can see how other people accomplish certain steps when you get, run into difficulty. Okay, now to the challenging part to teach via the internet. Hopefully this will work out okay. If it doesn't, please, speak up and let me know. But if you have pulled up the tutorial page, I can add a file here, right?
You can. It does look like the link that Nancy posted should take you directly there. I'm not sure why the one that I got
Okay.
it didn't work.
Well, I'm just putting the file in there also, just to make sure that everybody who wants it has it, because this is primarily what we're going to be following along with. So I'll give you guys a moment to open it up and check it out. And in the meantime, I will talk about the Bara system. So Bara in Spanish, I was going to say it means, but that's not what I want to say. The Bara in Spanish is equivalent to one whole length of a thing. So that's very vague, but it will get better. If I were to, this is my example tape. It's very short. My real tape wraps all the way around. Say if it's a bust tape, it wraps all the way around my bust. And one full bust measurement is 1 bara. So it's almost like a yard, a personal yard for each part of the body. So if I have a bust tape, the bust wraps around my bust, we mark it, and it's a bara for one bust measurement. Waist, same thing. 1 full wrap around my waist is 1 bara. And then there are intermediate marks. So like this one in the middle is an M for media, and that indicates that that's the halfway mark. Okay, so I'm not going to go too deep into how the bara works, because I did recommend that you take Severin's class on the bara. That was last night. But that's just a quick gist of what a bara is and how it works. So to do the drawers, to make your own pattern for drawers, if you open up the tutorial at the, go lie down, babes, go. At the top of page 2, the directions for actually making the drawers start. So you can follow along with me, or you can just watch what I do. but I'm literally just going right off of my own printout of the tutorial. So you take your waist bara, presumably you already have all the stuff ready. I'm going to use the same test tape for everything because I don't actually have a full set of tapes in this scale, which fits my whiteboard, which fits my camera. But we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna use this light blue for my waist. You can't see that. Maybe I won't use this light blue. You see this? Not well. Okay, hold on 1 second while I move the whiteboard in closer. Okay, so this may not be a perfect way to do this. I'm sorry. This is my first time trying to teach this class via Zoom. So, but basically the gist is you take your measuring tape and you lay it out on your paper. Okay, and you mark from 0 to 1 waist bara. So there's my 2 marks. I know it's hard to see, but hopefully you guys can see them. Well, maybe if I put myself in full screen, I could see better.
I was gonna say, we can actually see the line that you just made pretty well.
Oh, great. I was worried about that. Oh, yes. Now when I pull myself up to the full screen, I can see pretty well. But then I can't see if anybody has questions.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay. So we're going to say black is the waist. You don't need to be able to read that. I just need a note for myself. Then you're going to find the center of this point. So presumably you marked that in the middle. So 0, bara, media. And you're going to measure QQQ, which is technically 3/4. This might not be working so well.
We're doing fine.
Which is 3/4 of your length tape. So we're going to use this green for length, just in case you can see it. And then you're going to mark your line going down. Presumably you do this with rulers and T-squares and stuff like that, and it comes out very nicely. But this is our QQQ, our length measurement. QQQ can be adjusted up or down. If you find that you want your drawers to be longer, make it longer, add some measurement to it that makes it the right proportion for you. But this is all about proportion. So you can adjust it, but this gives you a base to start from. So now if we pretend this is our hip tape, H, now we would go across H and measure TI or TD, somewhere in that range. The reason why I give a range is because you have to wrap your tape around your knee area to see what size you need it to be. I can't say TI is perfect for everyone. It might be perfect for a slim person, but not for a larger person. So I gave a range of TI to TD measurements for you to figure out what works best for you. And again, there's a little blurb at the top of the page that discusses wrapping it around your leg and marking it to see where you need it to be. But now we've got our hip tape measurement here. And if we go back to the length, which was green, we're going to mark the halfway point on the length tape, which goes to about here, and do it on both sides so that it's nice and even. Okay, and fill in your line. And now you're looking at the top of page 4, which is where we close off this space here. And that does not use a tape to do it. You just kind of close your circle. So you've got whatever you decided your measurement was here, and you just close your shape, your polygon off. Okay, but now what you need to do is you need to mark where your drawer opening is going to end, which should be Q on your length tape. So if I get out my length marker and I measure from 0 down on one side to Q. Okay, that's going to give me, basically it's going to be 1/2 of your media because Q is 1/4. So it should align perfectly. And then you have to make another square. Let's see. That's not going to erase. It's not wet enough anymore. Then you have to make a square on another piece of paper. And the key is you have to measure this distance to be the same as this distance, which was length Q. So 1/4 of your length tape. And then when you turn this piece over here and you cut it in half and turn it over here, it will come out perfectly like that to create the shape of your drawers after you sew it in. That is the basic gist of this. Did I go too fast for anyone? If you were following along with the tutorial?
I'm not getting any indication that you're going too fast. We do have a question from Madalena that says, you had said earlier that one pair of calzoni was too long going down past your knee. Was that due to the media measurement of your length?
That was not. That particular pattern was an enlargement to scale of a pattern in Patterns of Fashion. So either the person was very skinny and tall, or it was meant to be a longer pair of drawers. I'm not sure what it was, what the case may be, but I found that I didn't like it hanging below my knee because when I sat down, it would then get tight around my knees. But that could be a personal preference because we do see in some of the artwork. Let me go back here. Share screen again. On this slide, we do see it looks like the drawers go down below their knee. This one looks like it hits about mid-knee. And this one looks like it could be either at the knee or just below the knee. So it is possible that maybe that's the length they're supposed to be, and it's just a personal preference that I don't like that length. Any other questions? Do you guys need me to cover anything again? Do you have any spots where I went too quickly? Or I know I went pretty quickly on this, so that's why I keep saying that. I wasn't sure how long it would take to actually do the demonstration without audience interaction.
You said that you don't really like the ones with the drawstring, but you had two different ones, one that had a waistband with a tie and another had a waistband with a hook. Which do you prefer and why?
I prefer the waistband with the tie. I believe the one that I had with the hook was actually a safety pin, and it was only holding it together because either I didn't do the eyelets yet, or I don't remember why I had the safety pin in there. But generally what I do is I do a solid waistband that is not drawstring to the length of the bara, which there's instructions at the end of the tutorial describing how to do the waistband and stuff like that, the leg bands. So I do the solid waistband at 1 bara length, which is my exact waist. And then I put eyelets and a tie in the front. It does give you a little bit of wiggle room if you gain or lose some weight. But generally, if you are a stable weight, it's pretty comfortable. It's much more comfortable than having the drawstring waistband.
We have another couple of questions. So the first one is from Isabel, and she's asking, how does the cut work hold up underneath your dress?
Fine. The cut work on the gold pair, and also I had made the red pair as well. I have both of those here with me, actually. One moment. So those were both made with slashing on the bias. And the bias does not fray as much as the straight of grain does. So I can do a nice close up. This is very well worn and it just has some slight fraying. This is not a real silk. This is a faux silk, which means I can also machine wash. I don't machine wash it, but I can also, wash it without concern. This is a real silk, a silk taffeta, and it also has a small amount of fraying. This is the second pair that I made with this method, the slashings. Which now that I remember, I could have taken a picture of it and put it in my slideshow, but I forgot I had them. So that it holds up really well because it's on the bias. So I don't have any problems. I mean, as long as I have a dress over it, it's not likely to catch on anything. Like my kamisha goes over the length of my drawers. So the slashes are unlikely to catch on anything and tear. But also, this was not something that I had intended when I designed these, but these rows of embroidery serve as a perfect stop so that if it does slash, it's going to slash and hit the embroidery and not go any further.
Okay, and someone's asking, are these slashed pairs lined with linen?
Yes, they're lined with handkerchief weight linen.
Okay. Our next question is from Athelina, and she is asking, do you know if the word mutanda is only for men's drawer, or mutande for men's drawers and calzone for women's?
I do not know the word mutande, so I have no idea what that is used for. I've only seen drawers referred to as calzone, which is the plural version. Calzone would be the singular version. I'm not sure about that question, sorry.
Somebody else is saying that they're 1490s Florentine and asking if it would be reasonable to have calzone in that time period.
I don't believe so. The limited evidence that is there seems to serve that the mid 16th century Florence is when drawers came about. There's different reasons why or suggestions as to how they came about. Some say that they were adapted from men's wardrobes for, comfort or utility purposes. I don't believe they were available in 1490 Florence. However, nobody's looking up your skirt. Wear them. They are way more comfortable.
So we also have a couple of questions about sort of the fullness. So the waist length is the full bara. So each leg is a full bara
leg
that gets, so the total volume of both legs is 2 bara that then gets gathered down to a single
waistband.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct. So this is one leg, and they get assembled, here and here. And then you're gonna have 2 bara in the waist that gets scrunched down or gathered down into 1 bara waistband.
And we're also getting a question about what weight of linen you would recommend and whether they should always be lined or not.
Okay. I would say a handkerchief weight linen is usable. However, it will wear very quickly. You might want to go like 1 weight above that. I don't know what that would be. If you assume that a 3.5 ounce is your handkerchief weight, so maybe a 4 or a 4.5 ounce, but you don't want to go too heavy because then they're just going to feel warm. They won't get the breeze through them. Unless you're looking to make winter drawers, in which case make silk ones. They are very nice and cozy. What weight? And would they always be lined? I don't believe they would always be lined. The extant pair are all in linen. However, the embroidered pair, the pair with decorative work on the outside, is lined. So that is why I chose to make these silk lined with linen was because it made sense in the example of the embroidered pairs of drawers. Does that answer the question?
I think so. And we have one question going back to your slashed pairs. Somebody is wondering whether the slashing continues into the inner thigh.
It does, but it doesn't. So it continues. I stopped it maybe an inch short of the actual seam. So this is the center thigh seam. So it continues from the front towards the thigh, but it doesn't really rub together. So it's not, I wouldn't really call it all the way on the inner thigh. It's just sort of halfway there.
Okay, and our next question is, have you seen any wardrobe accounts of calzone in wool?
I have not. The examples I've heard of are the extant pairs that exist in the museums that I showed earlier, as well as a couple of records saying, I think one was velvet and it was in a trousseau. It was in somebody's wedding garments. And then Eleanor de Toledo's was red silk. So that's what these red ones are based on, was, you know, the whole concept of this silk drawer project was, what might a fancy person, a noblewoman's drawers have looked like, knowing the desire for conspicuous consumption, even if it will never be seen.
And somebody just wants to say thank you very much for sharing the details of the cover.
You're welcome. I can also show you this. The waistband on this one came out a little bit better than my first try. So we've got the eyelets here. And the eyelets are made with rings behind them, similar to, I believe it was Don Gargia's burial clothing that had rings behind the eyelets. If not, then it was Cosimo's, one or the other. And I wove the tie, which, you know, I've never woven anything before, but I wove this tie and it closes very nicely on the recipient, who is actually, shout out to Elena, who is teaching at 8 p.m. today at the 1480s Florentine class. That is my apprentice sister. You can tell her we saw her drawers. The first pair of drawers, the waistband turned out too big. I made it too tall. So I put in 2 sets of eyelets and cross it between them. So, you know, if you make a mistake, you make it work. So I made a mistake when I was constructing these, and I also didn't get around to weaving my own ties for these. But I made 2 sets of eyelets because the height, it just seems like it would have dug in weird with only 1 pair of eyelets with the height of the waistband. And
So on that note, how tall are the waistband on each pair?
oh, on the red pair is 1 inch, approximately. I think it's like 2 bara. On the gold pair, it's about 2 inches. So you can see I crisscross the.
Do you mean 2 detto?
Oh yeah, 2 detto, sorry.
You said 2 bara and I was like,
No, it is not 2 bara, 2 detto. Thank you for correcting me. On the waistband, it's approximately 1 inch. I don't know if I used the detto to actually measure it perfectly, but it's about 1 inch roughly. And the extant pairs that had waistbands, they were approximately 1 inch. They're in the range of 1 inch, not as large as the 2 inches that I did on my first pair. More questions? Does anyone have other questions about the tutorial, and including the things I didn't cover that were in the handout?
Nancy is wondering, how many pairs of drawers do you take with you to an event?
1 per day, as many as I have. And then like at an event like Penzic, I have to wash them and hang them around camp to dry. So it is not uncommon to see my drawers and kamishi laying on the chairs around our camp because I don't own enough to make it through 2 weeks of Pennsic. And I could make more, but I really find the task of making undergarments very boring. I love undergarments. I love my drawers, but I find it very boring to sew more drawers that aren't fancy and like decorated and stuff.
So somebody is hoping that you could explain the benefits of ties versus, say, a button at the waist.
I don't know of any that were buttoned. And I would say buttoning your drawers would actually be very limiting if you gain or lose weight. With a tie, you could always stretch it out a little bit and leave the V opening, as you may have seen on some of my garments on the mannequin. You can stretch it out, or you can tie it tight or closed so it stays together. But with a button, you have to be that weight. You cannot change it. It's got to be that size.
And somebody is asking if they are open or closed in the crotch.
Closed drawers. We do not have any evidence at this time of open drawers in the 16th century. The 3 pair of drawers that we do have are all closed. And you cannot tell from the courtesan artwork if they are open or closed. So I go with closed. It can be a pain to use the facilities, to say that as politely as possible. However, I have this little method that I've established that I've figured out from using porta potties and stuff in my fancy gowns with lots of full skirt. If you hold your skirt up and you kind of scoop up your veil and your kamisha, you want to wrap your kamisha up so that the skirt goes inside of the kamisha body, then drape it over one arm, drape the whole lot over one arm. You still have, one hand free to do what you got to do, whether that means tying, like I can tie my undergarments because I'm not actually holding the fabric. It's just draped over my arm. Bless you. So that's the biggest concern most people have about open or closed drawers, is the difficulty of going to the bathroom. I can't imagine trying to go to the bathroom in a porta with open drawers and not try to get stuff all over me anyway. So I don't have a problem with the closed drawers. Okay, we have about 10 minutes. Does anybody else have any other questions or anything they want to add? We're good. Do we want to cut the recording?
Sure.
Oh,
We do have some other questions. Do you want me to cut the recording anyway, or shall we carry on? They're going a little off topic. So
yeah, it's getting off topic. So I'm happy to answer the questions, but maybe we should cut the recording.
Sounds good.